welcome to the program. As we had speculated in our last video, Joe Biden has now officially dropped out of the presidential race. He has endorsed Kamala Harris, but we don't know yet who is going to be the official nominee for the Democratic Party. We will have to wait until the backdoor dealings have been made and the white smoke comes out of the Democratic headquarters. But among all this speculation, could Barack Obama find his way back into the White House? This is what we're going to look at in today's video. Let's have a look first at the announcement on Twitter. And so here is the official announcement from Joe Biden, or at least from his Twitter. We don't know if he's really running it. Joe Biden on Twitter saying, "My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee at our party this year, Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." And we see him with a picture of Kamala and still asking for money, of course. Krasenstein saying, "Heck yeah." What else? Matt Walsh saying, "You only served for 4 years, but you can take solace in the fact that you made an enormous impact during that time." Of course, the impact was totally disastrous, but it was enormous. What else? Lives of TikTok, worst president in history unless Kamala wins. Let's see. Here it is. Robert Reich attacking Trump for being the oldest. Now, just minutes after they tried to sling Joe Biden, it didn't work. They replaced him, and now they're saying the other guy is senile. Bitter work, courageous and selfless. Frank Underwood coming back from the woodwork, telling us, "My turn." What else? Of course, everybody commenting on it. Don Lemon, here we are. Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden has earned his place among the best and most consequential presidents in American history. Yes. Yeah. Well, coming from Buttigieg, I guess you can comprehend this. And let's see who else. Lex Friedman. "That's great news. That'll make the prisoner's race more interesting. I'm now looking forward to more vibrant debates." Oh, that's not nice for Joe. Who else? Chuck Schumer. "With President Biden and Democrats in the Senate and House, jobs are up, wages are up." Chuck Schumer, of course, one of the main architect of kicking Joe Biden out of the ticket. Did he praise him? Let's see. President, "I'm so honored with President." No, not really. He did not praise Joe Biden. He just kicked him out of the race, and that was it. But a lot of Democrats have been praising Joe Biden. Of course, all the people who pushed him out on the side went straight to Twitter to praise him. "Oh, what a wonderful guy, and what a selfless decision," when really they forced his hand. And to show a little bit the amount of panic that was in the Democratic camp, let's have a look now. That was the Biden campaign co-chair on Face the Nation just a few hours before the announcement that Joe Biden would drop out.
From two allies of Joe Biden who have now changed their position. And we now look at the tally of roughly 40 lawmakers who have called for Joe Biden to step aside. Clearly, leadership is setting up a permission structure for lawmakers to come out and say these things. Has Joe Biden lost control of the Democratic Party?
No, he's not. And he's heard those concerns, and I want to be crystal clear. He's made a decision, and that decision is to accept the nomination and run for re-election, win re-election. And I think that there are those out there that need to hear it again, that he made a decision. He's going to be the candidate. He's going to be the next president. And now it's time to focus on the threat that Donald Trump poses and what the extreme agenda is on the other side.
Congressman, we heard, as you know, before you, from two.
All right, so here you can clearly see that just a few hours before Biden announced that he was dropping his campaign co-chair, was saying, no, he's in the race and he's going to win. And it really shows like the fracture that there is in the Democratic Party, and how, you know, different factions were fighting for power. Let's have a look now, of course, at AOC, who a couple of days ago was talking about how it was not just Joe Biden that the honchos at the party were trying to replace, but also Kamala. So it's not in the bag for Kamala.
I'm just going to say it. If you think that there is consensus among the people who want Joe Biden to leave, that they will support Kamala, Vice President Harris, you would be mistaken. And I'm going to say that because if they're going to come out and say all their little things on background off the record, but they're not going to be fully honest, I'm going to be honest for them. I'm in these rooms. I see what they say in conversations. A lot of them are not just interested in removing the president. They are interested in removing the whole ticket.
It's not just Joe Biden. I mean, you heard it from the horse's mouth. It's not Joe Biden that they want to remove. They also want to remove Kamala from the ticket. And of course, there's going to be a power struggle that's going to ensue. But the thing that you can get from that, and it's sort of a reliable source, because she is indeed there in the rooms with these people while they're talking. And if she's saying that they want to remove Kamala, there's probably some truth to it. And so that means that it's not a sure thing that Kamala is going to get the nomination. And so that leads us to the next question that we talked about at the beginning of this video. Could Barack Obama make his way back to the White House? Well, that comes from Jim Rickards, who was on Julia LaRoche's show yesterday or a couple of days ago, and he talks about this. So let's have a look at this.
And I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but it could happen legally, and there's a lot of talk about it, which is if Biden steps aside and Kamala Harris becomes the presidential nominee, who's the vice presidential nominee? Because you need one of those. Could be Barack Obama. Now, a lot of people just jumped out of the seat. Wait a second, he's already been president twice. He can't do it again, et cetera. That's not what the 22nd Amendment says. The 22nd Amendment to the U.S. Constitution it's actually very plain. It says, no person shall be elected president more than twice. It's just like that's the first sentence. It just said that's very plain. Okay. Well, but it doesn't say you can't be vice president. So Biden could be elected vice president, and that would not violate the 22nd Amendment. There's no prohibition.
Obama, yeah, Obama could be.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Obama.
It's
yes,
okay.
You're right. Obama could be elected vice president, even though he's been elected president twice. That does not violate the 22nd Amendment. Now, if you want to play it out a little bit, so the Harris-Obama ticket wins, because if it's Harris-Obama, that completely changes everything I said earlier. Polling, all of a sudden, the black vote might start to come back to the Democrats a little bit.
And here is Jim Rickards emitting this idea, and it sounds kind of crazy. Like he says, well, he's already been elected twice. How could he be president again? Well, nothing says that he can't be elected vice president. You know, the Constitution says you cannot be elected president twice, but it doesn't say you cannot be elected president twice and then be elected vice president. And then who knows, maybe something happens and the actual president is out of the way, and you as vice president has to assume office of the president. And that would in fact give you like a third term, or could give Obama a third term, even though he was never elected to be president, and that wouldn't violate the Constitution. Of course, now that would be absolutely insane, and the reaction of people would be, well, I don't even want to speculate on that, but you know, it's very reminiscent of the thing that happened in Russia with Vladimir Putin. If you remember, Vladimir Putin had 2 terms as president of Russia. And at that time, the constitution in Russia said that you could only do 2 terms as president. He then went on to be the prime minister of Medvedev, who did 1 term, and during that term, they changed the constitution of Russia so that the presidency could only have a term limit of 2 terms as president consecutively. And that allowed Vladimir Putin to come back after Medvedev's term to do another 2 terms de facto, and he's serving like he's just been elected to the 2nd term. So, you know, and in that regard, you know, you could see Vladimir Putin put someone else as president and be prime minister and then do another 2 terms. But who knows? Could something like that happen in America? And could we see the Russification of America? Well, who knows? That would be definitely a strange direction for our country. And of course, this, you know, it raises a lot of question about democracy and the democratic process. If that was to happen, then, you know, there would be really question as to whether we're still a democracy. But regardless of that, just among the Democratic Party, the democratic process isn't really respected. You know, Joe Biden had been elected by the Democratic voters to be the nominee. And now, all of a sudden, the honchos at the party just decide to take him out against the will of the voters just because they're seeing that the polling is bad and that he's not going to be able to be president and that it might hurt Democrats down ballots. And so they decide to replace him. And how can you really have the notion and the idea that, oh, we are fighting for democracy and the other guy, he's antithetical to democracy, he's against democracy, while at the same time, you don't even respect the democratic process within your own party? That definitely makes the argument a lot less powerful. So now that we've said that, let's have a quick look at what the talking heads are saying.
The Hispanic coalition, the Black coalition, the young, you know, all the pieces of a Democratic coalition to show that she can do that. That's why she's working the phone as much as she is, the donors and all of that. And to give her the space to show that she can stand that up in this moment, and that is something then they think they can get behind and get buy-in from the whole party so that there isn't a very messy fight. We'll see how this plays out, but those are the 2 different sort of paths that are being explored at the moment.
We're really in the show your work phase of the Kamala Harris campaign, right? It's important, and it's clear from sources that I've talked to that
I want to see some close-up of
that
these
it is
guys.
important, and we touched on this earlier, that she be seen trying to earn it, that she be seen making these calls, that it is not as though she has handed this on a silver platter. I think they are very well aware
These guys
of
seem
the
nervous.
danger of that implication. So, you know, I do think that's probably part of why you saw a split statement from President Biden. I think he knows that too, where there was one about what he was doing and then the endorsement came a little bit later.
And I think to that point, I think she recognizes, her team recognizes, it's also important that before we start talking about potential VP nominees, we're talking about her, and we're talking about her ability, as David said, to stand this up, to stand on her own, to earn the delegates, to have the confidence of the donors, the Labor Party. And so, You're going to continue to see these endorsements coming fast and furious. And I think the second thing that's also happening.
And now that it's not a done deal for Kamala and that it's not really sure that she's going to get it, we're going to see what's going to happen with the media. Are they going to try to prop her up, or are they going to try to prop someone else up, a replacement at the last moment, maybe before the convention? And of course, it's going to depend on polling, and what's going to happen with the polling in the next few days is definitely going to seal the fate for Kamala. Will she be the nominee or not? Well, the polls are going to determine this, because if they took Biden out of the race solely because of the polls, it's not going to be to replace him by Kamala if her polls are not good. If that is the case, then they will have to pick someone else.
Is considering throwing his hat in the ring and maybe running for the Democratic presidential, re-registering as a Democrat in the process.
Mention
our
waiting,
hopes for
running for
unifying
president as a
the
Dem.
Democratic Party right now, seemingly
That would
in
be
disarray,
crazy.
falling apart potentially.
Well, I think the fact that he would have to re-register as a Democrat to even throw his hat in the ring to be the Democratic nominee tells you a lot about the kind of support that he would get from the Democratic Party. No disrespect to Senator Manchin, who has a long record of service, but I'm not sure that he is somebody who is going to rally the Democratic base and the Democratic coalition in this moment. What I would say is, you know, Senator Manchin loves to find a headline, and, you know, as a communications professional, I can respect that. But I think,
We also respect that.
yes.
Kate did not respect it in the White House, but
Hey, let's not speak out of school here.
All right, so stuff is not really interesting on the CNN side. These guys obviously don't have much to say. Let's switch to MSNBC. Maybe they have some crazy that they can tell us about.
While we have been talking a little bit of
that's the
news,
panel.
not exactly
That's the
along
panel
these
that we
lines,
want.
but and also not exactly unexpected, but of course, here it is, two sources telling NBC News that Senator Joe Manchin is considering running for president. This is according to two
same
people
news
who
is
spoke
rhyming.
with him. Senator Manchin, of course, is not a member of the Democratic Party. He's an independent. He launched a nonprofit called Americans Together last year. He has long both invited and stoked speculation that he would be a presidential candidate at some point if he sees this as his moment. Again, to me, not surprising given the history of Joe Manchin. I don't have any idea what that would do in terms of this process. Whether or not the Democrats, in some organized way, try to create some semblance of a primary rather than just endorsing Vice President Harris, we shall see.
Will it be democratic or not?
At this point, it feels to me like the process is potentially
And all these people
nebulous, but the
hate
outcome is
Manchin.
not. But we'll see. Let's go now to outside President Biden's house in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli is there. Mike, I know you have been reporting this story all day long today. Tell us how this decision was made today, what we understand about President Biden's decision-making process, and expectations for what happens now.
Well, Rachel, there has been so much reporting over the last week about just how
no one cares about what these guys has to
President Biden
say.
would be making this decision.
Let's go to Fox and
including
let's see what they are
Abysmal
saying.
3.5 years. And by the way, she was the liar who did not, who hid the fact that
Goodbye,
Joe
old
Biden
puppet.
was having
Hello,
serious
new puppet.
health issues. So that trust is just not there.
All right, Fox's Brett Baer just talked to Senator Joe Manchin, who says that he is, in fact, considering throwing his hat into the ring, even just to be the voice that brings the Democratic Party back to the middle. I don't know what that add-on comment says. I mean, that kind of seems like it's just kind of not even serious. But he would be more threatening, would he not be, to the Trump campaign? Because
Yes,
he does
he
have
definitely would be.
much more of an appeal to middle-of-the-road voters, certainly, than Kamala Harris. Wouldn't you be concerned about his candidacy?
That's just not where the Democrat Party is. I mean, that's just not a real hypothetical to think that he would be the choice of Democrat voters. The Democrat Party,
right.
and especially the elites who are pushing Biden out and making this decision, you know, are more in line with a Kamala Harris. And that's just not where the American people are. So I think it's just going to continue to be a couple disastrous weeks for Democrats as they head toward their Democrat National Convention.
I don't think
and
anyone
on that
should take
note, that's enough for it, because anyway, right now, we don't know what's going to happen, but she's right. And Manchin would definitely be someone who'd be more threatening for the Republicans, being a centrist Democrat. He would definitely be someone who could be taking votes away from the Republicans to the Democratic Party. But as she said, well, the Democratic base is never going to accept Manchin because they see him as a centrist, and they obviously want someone who's going to be far left-leaning. And it's sort of the thing of the elections and the primary process is to be elected in a primary race, you need to be quite extreme within your party. And to win a general election, you need to be somewhat in the middle. And there's always during elections this process of a candidate being and saying things that are very extreme during the primary process, only to walk it back during the general election to try to seem more of a centrist. But anyway, now, nothing is set, and you can clearly see that there's panic among the Democratic Party. No one knows who the nominee is going to be. No one knows if this is going to be an open convention type of thing where they're going to go and have some type of democratic process where they're going to choose a nominee. But even if that's the case, no matter what, it's going to be the leaders of the party that are going to decide really who has the best chances, and all of it is going to come down to polling. And so we will see for Kamala Harris if she gets the nomination or not. It will depend on the polls. But, is there anybody else that could run? And especially considering the difficult state of this race, like if you're someone like Gavin Newsom, and I've said it in my previous videos, if you're someone like Gavin Newsom and you have, sort of a golden road, a golden ticket for maybe the next election cycle, would you want to throw your hat in this race knowing, like how difficult it's going to be to sort of turn the trend after what the Joe Biden campaign has done and the terrible polling that they're doing? Probably not. You just want to wait and sit this one out and wait for the next one where you'll have a better chance. So maybe Kamala Harris is actually the perfect choice because even though she's vice president now, her political ambitions are sort of limited compared to the heavy hitters of the Democratic Party. And if someone's political career is going to be derailed by this election, then maybe it would be Kamala's, who's less sophisticated than some of the, like the higher ups at the Democratic Party, who probably are not going to want to throw their hat in the race just to take a big L. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. We'll keep you updated as to what happens with this process. Don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.
Hit me with that like and sub to the channel. Hit me with that like and click the effing bell. Click that bit, alright. The algo recommends for she gon' like. The algo knows you are. Hit me with that like, subscribe to the channel. Hit me with that like and click the effing bell.